Welcome to our Bible study on 1 Samuel. Today we're looking at the anointing of Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 10. So I'd encourage you to go read that chapter and come back here. So press pause, go read the chapters and verses, and then come back and then we'll talk about it. All right. Hopefully you've paused and you've gone and read the chapter. Last week we focused on kind of our first impressions of Saul. We know that he couldn't find the lost donkeys of his father, but he did obey his father's voice and continue to look for the donkeys. We saw that he's tall and attractive, but we wondered if his looks are a cover for what's going to be a corrupt character. We know that he's chosen by God and promised that he will defeat the Philistines on behalf of the Israelites. And now we're looking at his anointing, which I think continues this theme of a kind of ambiguous view of Saul. So first we'll look at Saul's private anointing with Samuel and then Saul's public anointing among Israel. Now, Samuel pours oil on Saul's head and then gives him 3 signs to confirm his kingship. First, the donkeys that he was looking for will be found, and his father will look for him. We'll see that he'll interact with 3 worshipers who are going to invite Saul to a meal, and then he is going to join prophets in Gibeah, and the Spirit will come upon him. Samuel says after these 3 signs, he will be changed into a different person. And then he says, kind of shockingly, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you. Now, then you'll have to wait a week for me, that is Samuel, to come. Now, what's fascinating to me is that we're told immediately that God changed Saul's heart. So I thought when I initially read this that the order was promise, fulfillment of the promise, and then Saul's heart would be changed, as if God's fulfillment of these promises is the cause of Saul's change of heart. But God actually changes Saul before he fulfills those signs, which I find really interesting. It's like God needed to change his heart in order for him to appreciate and see and have faith in God due to the signs. We're told a little bit more detail about the interaction with the prophets. The reaction to Saul prophesying is really interesting. People ask, what is this that has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? A specific individual says, and who is their father? Now that last question is actually really important because it connects themes we've seen from the last 9 chapters. If I had to summarize the book of 1 Samuel, I would say that it's about fathers and sons. It's also about our heavenly Father, but it's mostly about fathers and sons. Hannah prays for a son, and when God gives her a son, he is transferred to his heavenly father and adopted by Eli as a new father, and we don't really hear about Elkanah very much anymore after that. We see that Eli's sons and Samuel's sons both become wicked. The former aren't adequately corrected by their father, and the latter just simply don't follow in their father's ways. So each time a natural born son fails in 1 Samuel, we see that they are followed by adopted sons. And so when that individual asks, and who is their father, it's referring to the father of the prophets. And the natural answer to that question is Samuel. Samuel is the father of the prophets. He is a prophet in Israel, and the prophets that he trains are under him. They are his sons. And so that means that Saul, if he's prophesying among them, has been transferred to the house of Samuel. He is like a son to Samuel now. He's adopted. And the big question is, which there are a lot of kind of unanswered questions in this passage, the big unanswered question is, will Saul turn out to be a son like Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, or will he turn out to be a son like Samuel? Now, when Saul returns home and meets his father's servant, Saul's uncle says, where have you been? And Saul says, I was looking for donkeys. And he just so happens to not mention the fact that this huge thing has happened in his life. He has been anointed king of Israel. Now, sometimes we assume that this might be embarrassment or shame or being overwhelmed or kind of shirking responsibility. But I just don't think Saul's character is fixed at this point. It might be humility and meekness that he doesn't bring up this big event. So we're not really sure why he doesn't say anything to his own uncle. You'd think he'd come back and say, hey, guess what? I'm king now. But he doesn't. After this private anointing with Samuel, there's a public anointing at Mizpah. Now, Samuel again warns the Israelites about their rejection of God for the sake of a king, for the sake of a human king. He says, God saved you from slavery in Egypt, but now you want someone else. So present yourself by tribes. And then they decide to cast lots, and the lot ultimately falls on Saul. Now, I think it's really interesting that Samuel casts lots, having already anointed Saul. This is kind of very strange practice to us. If you want more kind of stuff to research about this, I would look up the Urim and Thummim. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. These are kind of a sacred lot system by which priests sought God's will. And this may seem like confirmation bias to us, right? You throw the lots and you say wherever it falls, that's God's will. It's kind of applying chance to God's authority. But it was one of God's chosen ways for Israelites to consult him. So perhaps this isn't as strange as we think from a modern perspective. Regardless, I think it's fascinating that Samuel already knows God's will, has already anointed Saul, and then does a public confirmation ritual with these so-called random lots that also falls on Saul. I think it's almost like a triple confirmation. There have been signs, there have been lots, it's been public and private. And each time Saul is confirmed. Whatever else you think about Saul in the future passages and chapters that we'll read about him, he is chosen by God, period. The lots fall to him. Now, again, they look for Saul and he's not to be found, and it's not abundantly clear if this is good or bad or ugly. Is he being compared to the lost donkeys that he searched for? Is he shirking responsibility? Is he ignoring his duty? If Samuel summoned all of Israel, why didn't Saul go? It doesn't really make sense. It's actually kind of comical in the actual scene. He says, the Lord says, Saul is hidden among the supplies or among the baggage. And then they kind of bring out Saul. And at first it might seem like a kind of shameful, like he's kind of embarrassed as he walks out, but Samuel doesn't say, here's the coward king you deserve. He says, do you see the man the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the peoples. He must have been visually impressive. He must have been stunning as a man of God. So there's actually a lot of affirmation from Samuel as well. Now, I've never noticed this verse, but in 25, Samuel explains to the people the rights and duties of kingship. He takes the time to say what a king is, what a king ought to be, and the kind of authority a king has. And if presumably Samuel would use something like Deuteronomy 17 as a basis for this, but we don't know. We don't know exactly what he says, but he deposits that scroll before the Lord. All of the authority of human kingship in Israel is premised upon the true and final and ultimate authority of Yahweh. And I think there's a really interesting final touch that kind of foreshadows the future in the last verses. We're told that Saul goes home and he's accompanied by valiant men, he's accompanied by soldiers, but there are scoundrels who question if Saul can save them. They despise Saul and they don't bring any tribute to him, but Saul keeps silent. What does this mean? Does this mean that he is already dealing with a divided country and a divided kingdom? Is he going to have to earn that trust? Is he going to punish them in a vindictive way in the future? We just don't know, because in the beginning chapters of Saul's life, the story is very ambiguous. Sometimes it seems to foreshadow bad events in the future. Sometimes it seems like he's the man God chose and he has all the qualities that God needs him to have in order to be king. So we'll see what happens with King Saul. Here's some questions to think through as you study this chapter in a deeper way. First of all, we are told that Saul's heart is changed, but in what way? Based on your reading of chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10, how do you think Saul's heart has changed? Second, some practices in Israel are very strange to modern readers, specifically this casting of lots. We even see the disciples cast lots in the New Testament. So why do you think God chose this method as a way to reveal his will to his people? Third and finally, what is Samuel's view of Saul? On some occasions, he warns Israel about asking for a king. On other occasions, he speaks very highly of Saul. So how do we reconcile these warnings and commendations? I hope this Bible study is a blessing to you.